"Mommy," Mr. Gray says goodnight. I paused in the doorway of my son's bedroom, his nightlight casting soft shadows across the walls. Lucas was 6 years old, tucked under his dinosaur comforter, looking at his closet with that serious expression he got when he was deep in conversation with his imaginary friend. "Tell Mr. Gray goodnight for me," I said, keeping my voice light. "He can hear you. He's right there." Lucas pointed at the closet where the door stood slightly ajar, darkness pooling behind it. I'd read all the parenting books. Imaginary friends were normal, even healthy. They helped kids process emotions, practice social skills, work through fears. Lucas had started talking to Mr. Gray when he was 4, right after my divorce from his father became final. The therapist said it was a coping mechanism, a way for Lucas to feel less alone during the upheaval. So I smiled and blew a kiss toward the closet. "Good night, Mr. Gray." Lucas giggled. "He says good night back. He likes you, Mommy." "I like him too, sweetie. Now sleep tight." I pulled his door mostly closed, leaving it cracked the way he preferred, and headed downstairs to tackle the mountain of laundry and work emails that never seemed to end. That was our routine for 2 years. Every night, Lucas would have lengthy conversations with Mr. Gray before bed. Sometimes I'd hear him in there during the day chattering away while playing with his action figures. The one-sided dialogue was so animated, so detailed, that sometimes I'd catch myself expecting an actual response. My mother thought it was creepy. "He's too old for imaginary friends, Sarah. And the closet? That's not normal. Kids usually pretend their friends are sitting beside them, not hiding in dark spaces." "He's processing the divorce, Mom. The therapist says..." "The therapist doesn't live with it. I'm telling you, there's something off about this Mr. Gray business." But what was I supposed to do? Lucas was happy, doing well in 1st grade, making real friends at school. If talking to a pretend person in his closet helped him feel secure, who was I to take that away? My best friend Jenna was more understanding. My niece had an imaginary friend until she was 8, totally normal. Lucas will grow out of it. I wanted to believe that, I really did. The thing is, there were moments that made me wonder, like the time I came home from work early and heard 2 voices in Lucas's room, one high and childish, the other lower, almost a whisper. But when I rushed upstairs, Lucas was alone, playing with his Legos. "Who are you talking to?" "Just Mr. Gray, Mommy." It sounded like someone else was here. Lucas shrugged with that 6-year-old logic that defied explanation. "Mr. Gray has a quiet voice. You have to listen really hard." Or the time I found Lucas's closet door wide open at 3 a.m. and Lucas fast asleep. I'd closed it before bed. I always did because Lucas insisted Mr. Gray didn't like it shut completely, but I compromised by latching it once he was asleep. Yet there it was, standing open, as if someone had walked out. I told myself it was the house settling, the latch not catching properly. We lived in a 1970s split level in a quiet Pennsylvania suburb, the kind of place where everyone knew their neighbors and kids rode bikes until the streetlights came on. Nothing bad happened here. The closet became part of our landscape. I'd fold Lucas's clothes and stack them on the shelves, carefully organizing his shoes on the floor, and I'd feel this strange awareness, like someone was watching. But that was ridiculous. I'd look inside, see nothing but hanging shirts and toys shoved in corners, and feel silly for the flutter of unease. "Does Mr. Gray ever come out of the closet?" I asked Lucas once, trying to sound casual. "Sometimes. When you're not home, he doesn't like grown-ups much." "Why not?" "He says grown-ups don't understand, but he likes you because you're nice to me." "What does Mr. Gray look like?" Lucas scrunched his face, concentrating. "Tall, really tall. He has to bend down in the closet and gray clothes. That's why he's Mr. Gray." "What about his face?" "I don't know. It's hard to see. The closet is dark." A cold finger traced down my spine, but I pushed it away. Imagination. Just imagination. When Lucas started 1st grade, I thought maybe Mr. Gray would fade away. Lucas made a best friend named Tyler, joined soccer, got busy with homework and activities. But every night, There was Mr. Gray, waiting in the closet. "Mr. Gray says I'm his favorite," Lucas told me one evening while I helped him with his math homework. "His favorite what?" "His favorite friend. He says he'll be sad when we leave." "Leave? We're not going anywhere, buddy." But 6 months later, that changed. I got a job offer in Ohio. Better pay, better benefits, a chance to give Lucas more stability. The commute from Pennsylvania wasn't feasible, so I started house hunting, found a perfect place in a good school district, made an offer, got accepted. "We're moving," I told Lucas gently, bracing for tears. Instead, his face crumpled with worry. "But what about Mr. Gray?" "Honey, Mr. Gray is imaginary. He can come with us in your imagination." "He's not imaginary." Lucas's voice rose, panicked. "He lives in my closet. He can't leave." "Lucas, you don't understand. Mr. Gray is real. He's my friend. He's been here the whole time." He was crying now, genuinely distressed. I held him while he sobbed, stroking his hair, murmuring reassurances. "It's okay. We'll figure it out. Maybe Mr. Gray can visit sometimes." "He says he can't. He says he has to stay in the house." The way Lucas said it, with such conviction, such specific detail, made my skin prickle. But I was 32 years old, a rational adult with a career in accounting. I didn't believe in things that went bump in the night. "We'll talk to him together," I said. "We'll explain that you're moving, but you'll never forget him." That night, I stood in Lucas's doorway and watched him have what I assumed was his final conversation with Mr. Gray. He was crying softly, and I swear I heard something else, a low sound, almost like a sigh coming from the closet. Just the house settling, just the wind, just my overactive imagination triggered by my son's distress. We moved on a Saturday in late September. The moving truck pulled away, and I locked the door to our old house for the last time. Lucas pressed his face against the car window as we drove away, tears streaming down his cheeks. "Bye, Mr. Gray," he whispered. I thought that was the end of it. I thought we were starting fresh. I had no idea the nightmare was just beginning. The new house was everything I'd hoped for. A renovated 1920s Craftsman with hardwood floors, a big backyard, and most importantly, a fresh start. Lucas's new room was larger than his old one, with built-in bookshelves and a closet that had actual sliding doors instead of the old hinged one. "See? Much better," I said, trying to sound upbeat as I unpacked his clothes. Lucas sat on his bed, listless. He'd barely spoken since we left Pennsylvania 3 days ago. He picked at his food, had trouble sleeping, and refused to engage with any of the activities I suggested. "I miss Mr. Gray," he said quietly. "I know, buddy, but you'll make new friends. Tyler's mom said they can visit next month. And school starts Monday. You'll meet lots of kids." Mr. Gray was special. I sat beside him, pulling him close. "He was special because you needed him. But you're growing up, Lucas. You're so brave and strong. You don't need an imaginary friend anymore." He looked at me with those solemn brown eyes. "You really think he was imaginary?" "Of course he was, sweetie." Lucas didn't respond, just turned away to stare out his window at the unfamiliar street. By the end of the first week, Lucas seemed to be adjusting. He'd stopped mentioning Mr. Gray, started exploring the neighborhood with a boy from 2 houses down. I let myself relax, convinced we'd made the right choice. Then I got a call from the realtor. "Sarah, it's Denise. I have something weird to tell you. The buyers who purchased your old house, they found something during renovations." "Okay?" "They're gutting Lucas's old bedroom to expand the closet, and they found photos hidden in the air vent. Polaroids. The wife said they're concerning. She thinks you should see them before they decide whether to call the police." My blood ran cold. Police? What kind of photos? She wouldn't say over the phone. But Sarah, they involve Lucas. I made the 3-hour drive back to Pennsylvania that same afternoon, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. Lucas was at his new school. I'd told him I had a work meeting. I couldn't involve him until I knew what this was about. The new owners, a couple named David and Michelle Harper, met me at the door with grim expressions. Michelle held a shoebox, and I could see the edge of Polaroid photographs inside. "We almost didn't call you," David said. "Almost went straight to the police, but Michelle thought you deserved to see them first in case there was some explanation." Michelle handed me the box. They were deep in the air vent behind the closet grate. Someone had taped them to the inside of the ductwork. We only found them because we were pulling the whole system out. My hands trembled as I lifted the lid. The first photo showed Lucas asleep in his bed, taken from an angle that made my stomach drop. The perspective was from inside the closet, shooting through the partially open door. The nightlight cast that familiar glow, and Lucas's face was peaceful, one arm draped over his dinosaur comforter. The date stamp in the corner read 2 years ago, August 2023. I flipped to the next photo. Lucas again, sleeping. Different pajamas, different position. Date, October 2023. Then another and another. 37 photographs in total spanning 2 years. All of Lucas sleeping, all taken from inside his closet. Someone had been in my son's closet, watching him, photographing him, for 2 years. I couldn't breathe. The room spun. Michelle grabbed my elbow, guided me to a chair. "We're calling the police," David said. "Right now." The next hours passed in a blur. Police arrived, secured the house as a potential crime scene. Detectives interviewed me. When had Lucas mentioned Mr. Gray? Had I noticed anything suspicious? Were there signs of break-ins? Did my ex-husband have access? "Your son thought his imaginary friend lived in the closet?" Detective Morris asked, her expression grave. "Yes, for 2 years. Oh my God." The realization hit me like a truck. Mr. Gray was real. Someone was actually in there. "We need to examine your new house immediately, and we need to interview Lucas. Is he safe right now?" I called my neighbor in Ohio in a panic, begged her to pick Lucas up from school and keep him at her house. "Don't let him go inside our house. Don't let him out of your sight. I'll explain everything later." The forensic team descended on my old house. They found evidence that made my skin crawl. Wear patterns on the closet carpet suggesting someone had spent significant time there. Small gaps in the drywall where someone could see through into the room. And a water bottle and protein bar wrappers stuffed behind the insulation. "The closet shares a wall with the garage," Detective Morris explained. "There's an access panel in the garage that leads to the crawl space behind the walls. Someone was entering through the garage, moving through the crawl space, and spending time in your son's closet. The access panel lock was broken. Looks like it had been for years. Did you ever notice?" I'd never even looked at that panel. Never had a reason to. "We're checking for DNA, fingerprints, any trace evidence. But Sarah, we need to consider that whoever this was, they might know you've moved. They might know your new address." The Ohio police met me at my new house. They searched every inch, installed new locks, checked every access point. No evidence of entry, no signs anyone had been inside. But they found something that made my blood freeze. Footprints in the soft dirt of my backyard flower bed, leading to Lucas's window. Fresh footprints from that morning. "Pack a bag," Detective Morris said. "You and Lucas can't stay here tonight." We stayed at a hotel. I held Lucas while he cried, tried to explain without terrifying him more than necessary. "Remember Mr. Gray? Honey, Mr. Gray wasn't imaginary. There was a real person in your closet. A bad person who shouldn't have been there." Lucas's face went white. Mr. Gray was real? Someone was there, yes, someone who... Where is he now? "We don't know, but the police are going to find him." Lucas started shaking. "Mommy, I told him things. I told Mr. Gray everything. About school, about my friends, about you. What if he's mad we left? What if he followed us?" "The police are going to protect us. I promise." But I didn't know if I could keep that promise. Over the next days, the investigation intensified. The Pennsylvania police found more evidence in the old house's crawl space. A sleeping bag, more food wrappers, a battery-powered lantern. Whoever Mr. Gray was, he'd been living in my walls. But they couldn't find him. No fingerprints in the system matched what they recovered. No DNA hits. No surveillance footage from the neighborhood showed anyone suspicious. Mr. Gray was a ghost, except for the 37 Polaroids proving he was terrifyingly real. Serial stalker, Detective Morris told me quietly. This level of patience, planning, access, this isn't his first time. We're looking at similar cases in the region, seeing if there's a pattern. You think he's done this before? I think Lucas might not have been his first victim, and without an ID, I'm worried he won't be the last. That night, Lucas woke screaming. I ran to his hotel room. We'd gotten a 2-bedroom suite and found him sobbing, pointing at the closet door. "He's here. Mr. Gray is here. I heard him." The closet was empty, just hotel linens and extra pillows, but Lucas was inconsolable. "He found us," Lucas kept saying. "Mr. Gray always finds me." We couldn't live in a hotel forever. Despite my terror, despite Lucas's nightmares, we had to go home. The Ohio police maintained regular patrols, installed a security system, and a detective named James Crawford became our unofficial guardian. "We're going to catch this guy," Crawford promised. "But in the meantime, you need to be vigilant. Lock every door and window. Trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, call 911 immediately." I turned our house into a fortress. Security cameras inside and out, smart locks, motion sensors. I slept with my phone in my hand and a baseball bat under my bed. Lucas moved into my room. There was no way he was sleeping alone. The first week back was tense but uneventful. Then small things started happening, things that could have been coincidental but felt wrong. A toy of Lucas's that I'd packed away appeared on his bookshelf. I asked him if he'd unpacked it. He said no. The back gate, which I'd triple-checked was latched, stood open one morning. My garden gnome moved from one side of the porch to the other. I told myself I was losing my mind, that stress was making me paranoid. Then Lucas came to me, pale and shaking. "Mommy, someone left something in my backpack." Inside his school backpack, tucked between his folders, was a Polaroid photograph, not one of the 37 from the Pennsylvania house, a new one. It showed Lucas in his new bedroom taken 3 days ago through his window, playing with his action figures on the floor. I called 911 with trembling hands. The investigation exploded. How had Mr. Gray found us? Had he followed us from Pennsylvania? The Ohio police theorized he'd researched me online, found my new address through public records or social media. I deleted every account, scrubbed my digital presence, but the damage was done. "He's escalating," Detective Crawford said, studying the new photo. "Before, he was passive, watching, documenting, but not making contact. Now he's communicating. He wants Lucas to know he's still here." "Why?" My voice cracked. "Why my son? What does he want?" "We're building a profile with the FBI. This level of fixation, the length of time, the methodology, it suggests someone with significant psychological disturbance. He's formed an attachment to Lucas, sees himself as part of Lucas's life. In his mind, he might genuinely believe he's Lucas's friend." The thought made me sick. We moved again, this time to a secure apartment complex with controlled access and security guards. I pulled Lucas from school, started homeschooling. We lived like prisoners. And still, I felt Mr. Gray's presence everywhere, a shadow just out of sight, watching, waiting. Detective Crawford brought in FBI behavioral analysts. They interviewed Lucas gently, trying to extract details about Mr. Gray's voice, things he'd said, anything that might help identify him. He said he was lonely, Lucas remembered, that nobody understood him except me. He said grown-ups were mean, but I was special. Classic predator language. The analysts explained that Mr. Gray had been grooming Lucas, building trust and dependency. The imaginary friend act was deliberate, a way to insert himself into Lucas's life without suspicion. Lucas would naturally keep their conversations secret because that's what kids do with imaginary friends. "He told me never to tell you about our talks," Lucas said. "He said it was our secret, that you wouldn't understand." I felt sick with guilt. How had I missed this? How had I let a predator live in my son's closet for 2 years? You couldn't have known, the therapist assured me. He was extraordinarily careful. He knew exactly how to exploit the situation. But that didn't help me sleep at night. 3 weeks after we moved to the apartment, Lucas and I were returning from a therapy session when Lucas suddenly froze in the parking lot. "Mommy," he whispered, gripping my hand. "That's him." I followed his gaze across the parking lot. A man in gray clothing stood beside a car, watching us. Tall, thin, wearing a baseball cap pulled low. The moment our eyes met, he moved, not running, but walking quickly toward the exit. "Call 911, I screamed to the security guard while I shoved Lucas behind me. The guard radioed for help, but by the time police arrived, the man was gone. The security footage showed him clearly for the first time, late 30s or early 40s, angular face, but his features were obscured by the cap and a pair of sunglasses he wore despite the overcast weather. Still, it was something. The FBI ran the footage through facial recognition. They got a hit. His name was Martin Grayson, 42 years old, registered sex offender from West Virginia who'd failed to check in with his parole officer 8 months ago, wanted for violating probation. Martin Grayson, Mr. Gray. "He has a history," Crawford told me, his face grim. "Multiple charges involving minors. He was released 3 years ago, moved to Pennsylvania, then disappeared when he was supposed to report. We think he'd been living in abandoned houses, crawl spaces, moving through neighborhoods undetected." "How did he find my house?" "Bad luck. Your house had that broken access panel, easy entry. He probably started in the garage, realized he could move through the walls, discovered Lucas's room. And once he found Lucas," Crawford's jaw tightened. "He stayed. Now we had a name, a face, a history. The manhunt intensified. Police checked known associates, former addresses, surveilled locations Grayson had frequented. Tips poured in, but each lead went nowhere. Grayson had vanished into the shadows, and somewhere out there, he was watching, planning his next move. Then came the night everything changed. I woke at 2 a.m. to Lucas's absence. His side of the bed was empty, blankets thrown back. Panic seized me as I jumped up, searching the apartment. "Lucas!" I found him standing in the living room, staring at the sliding glass balcony door. The security sensor blinked red. Someone had opened it. On the balcony, barely visible in the darkness, stood Martin Grayson. He looked at me through the glass and slowly, deliberately, placed something on the balcony floor. Then he turned and climbed over the railing, disappearing into the night. We were on the 3rd floor. Where did he go? I grabbed Lucas, locked us in the bathroom, and called 911 with shaking hands. Police arrived within minutes. They found Grayson's item on the balcony, a small gift box wrapped in gray paper. Inside, a note written in neat handwriting. "Tell Lucas I'll always be his friend. Tell him I'm sorry he had to leave. Tell him I'll see him soon." Mr. Gray. Detective Crawford's face was ashen. "He climbed the building. There are marks on the exterior wall where he scaled up. He's been watching the apartment, waiting for the right moment." "He was in Lucas's closet for 2 years. I was screaming now, all my fear and rage pouring out. "He photographed my child. He stalked us across state lines. And you can't catch him?" "We will," Crawford promised. "I swear to you. We will stop him." But I didn't believe him anymore. That night, I realized something had to change. The police couldn't protect us. Running hadn't worked. Hiding hadn't worked. Grayson was patient, obsessed, and dangerously skilled. If we were going to survive, I needed to do something nobody expected. I needed to set a trap. "Absolutely not," Detective Crawford said when I proposed my plan. "You're not using your son as bait." "I'm not using him as bait. I'm creating a controlled scenario where Grayson thinks he has an opportunity, but this time, we'll be ready." We were in a conference room with Crawford, the FBI behavioral analysts, and a SWAT team commander. I'd spent 3 sleepless nights developing this plan, and I wasn't backing down. Grayson is obsessed with Lucas, I explained. He's taken risks to maintain contact, following us to Ohio, climbing our apartment building. He's escalating because he's desperate. He feels like he's losing Lucas, so we give him what he thinks is a chance to reconnect. The lead FBI analyst, Dr. Patricia Chen, leaned forward. Go on. We spread word through social media, carefully controlled but visible, that Lucas and I are returning to Pennsylvania to pack remaining items from storage. We rent a house similar to our old one. We make it look like we're staying a few days, and we create opportunities for access. A garage door left partially open, windows not fully secured. We make it easy for him. And when he enters, the SWAT commander asked, you arrest him. You'll have teams positioned inside the house, outside, covering every exit, thermal imaging to track his movement. We'll have Lucas secured in a safe room with officers, but Grayson won't know that. He'll think Lucas is alone, accessible. He'll come. Crawford shook his head. Too many variables. If something goes wrong. Something's already wrong. My voice broke. My 6-year-old is traumatized. We're living in hiding. Grayson has proven he can find us anywhere. This is happening whether we control it or not. At least this way, we choose the time and place. Dr. Chen studied me carefully. You understand this could be dangerous. Grayson has nothing to lose. If he realizes it's a trap, he could become violent. He's already violent. He's been psychologically torturing my child for 2 years. I understand the risks, and I'm willing to take them to end this. After hours of debate, modifications to the plan, and coordination with Pennsylvania authorities, they agreed. We had one shot. 2 weeks later, Lucas and I drove into Pennsylvania. We checked into a rental house in a quiet neighborhood. Single-story, unfinished basement, garage with crawlspace access. Perfect for someone like Grayson who moved through walls and shadows. The house was wired with hidden cameras, sensors on every possible entry point, and concealed law enforcement throughout. SWAT teams were positioned in neighboring houses. Thermal imaging tracked the entire property. Lucas wore a wire and stayed in a reinforced safe room disguised as a bedroom, with 2 officers inside and more stationed in the adjoining room. I played my part, carrying boxes from the car, leaving the garage door open for just a minute while I went inside, talking to Lucas in a normal voice about unpacking and staying a few days. Everything designed to look natural while actually being carefully staged. Mommy, I'm scared, Lucas whispered that first night, lying in the safe room bed. The officers had stepped into the next room to give us a moment of privacy. I know, baby, but this is how we stop Mr. Gray. This is how we make sure he can never hurt you again. What if he doesn't come? Then we'll try something else. But I think he will. He's been watching, waiting for a chance. We're giving him one. Lucas was quiet for a moment. Mommy? Mr. Gray wasn't all bad. Sometimes he told me stories. Sometimes he said nice things. My heart broke. I know, sweetie. That's how people like him work. They seem nice, so you trust them. But what he did, hiding in your closet, taking pictures, following us, that's not what real friends do. Real friends don't scare you. They don't make you keep secrets. They don't hurt you. I just want it to be over. It will be. Soon. The first 2 nights passed without incident. I started to worry Grayson had somehow sensed the trap. But on the 3rd night, at 2:47 a.m., the sensors triggered. Someone had entered the garage through the broken access panel. We have movement. Crawford's voice crackled through my hidden earpiece. Thermal signature in the crawl space, moving toward the interior wall. All units on alert. Do not engage until target is fully inside and identified. I lay in my bedroom with every muscle tensed, listening to the officers' whispered communications. Beside the bed, a hidden camera fed live footage to the command center. The thermal imaging tracked Grayson as he moved through the crawl space with eerie familiarity. He'd done this before, many times. He knew how to navigate tight spaces, avoid making noise, move with patience. He emerged into the garage, paused, listening. Then he approached the door leading into the house. "All units hold position," Crawford ordered. "Let him get inside." The door handle turned slowly. Grayson slipped into the hallway, moving toward what he thought was Lucas's room. "Target inside. Prepare to engage on my command." Grayson reached the safe room door, opened it silently. In the darkness, he could see the shape of Lucas in bed, actually pillows arranged under blankets, but convincing from the doorway. He stepped inside. "Now, go, go, go!" The lights blazed on. SWAT officers emerged from hidden positions. "Police! Get on the ground! Hands where we can see them!" For a moment, Grayson froze, caught in the sudden light and chaos. Then his face twisted with rage and he bolted, not toward the exits, but toward the bed, toward what he thought was Lucas. "No!" I screamed, running from my room. Officers tackled Grayson before he reached the bed. He fought like a trapped animal, screaming about Lucas, about his friend, about how I'd ruined everything. It took 4 officers to restrain and cuff him. "Lucas is mine. You can't keep him from me. He's my friend. Mine." I burst into the room as they dragged Grayson away, still screaming. The real Lucas was safe in the next room, but I needed to see him, hold him, make sure he was okay. The officers let us embrace while Grayson was removed from the house. Through the window, I watched them put him in the police car, his face pressed against the glass, still staring at the house with obsessive intensity. "Is it over?" Lucas asked, his voice muffled against my shoulder. "It's over," I promised. "Mr. Gray can never hurt you again." Martin Grayson was charged with multiple felonies including stalking, child endangerment, burglary, and violation of sex offender registration. The evidence was overwhelming. The polaroids, DNA from the Pennsylvania house, his appearance at our apartment, and now breaking and entering with clear intent. The trial revealed even more disturbing truths. Grayson had been living in people's walls and crawl spaces for over a decade. Lucas wasn't his first victim. Police found evidence of at least 6 other children he'd targeted in similar ways. Some families had never realized he'd been there. Others, like us, had attributed strange occurrences to imagination or coincidence. Grayson received 45 years in prison without possibility of parole. The judge called him one of the most dangerous predators she'd encountered. Lucas and I moved to Colorado, far from Pennsylvania and Ohio, and started therapy, both individual and together. It took months before Lucas could sleep in his own room, years before he stopped checking closets compulsively. The nightmares gradually faded, replaced by normal childhood dreams. He's 12 now, thriving in middle school, playing baseball, laughing with real friends. He knows what happened. We've never hidden the truth, but it doesn't define him anymore. He's remarkably resilient, my brave boy. I learned hard lessons from those 2 years of unknowing terror. I learned that sometimes a mother's instinct warns her when something's wrong, and that we should never dismiss those warnings as paranoia. My mother had sensed something off about Mr. Gray from the beginning. I'd ignored her. I learned that predators are patient and skilled at hiding in plain sight. They exploit our assumptions about how the world works, about what's possible and what's not. Most importantly, I learned that protecting our children means staying vigilant, trusting our gut, and taking action even when we're scared. The police eventually caught Grayson, but only because I refused to remain passive, refused to let fear paralyze me. Now I volunteer with organizations that educate parents about predator tactics. I speak at schools about the difference between healthy imaginary play and warning signs that something's wrong. I advocate for better security measures in homes and stronger monitoring of registered offenders. Because Martin Grayson wasn't imaginary. He was real, hiding in the shadows of ordinary life. And if it happened to us, it could happen to anyone. The most important message I share: listen to your children. Really listen. When something feels wrong, investigate. Don't dismiss concerns as imagination or coincidence. Trust your instincts. They might save your child's life. Lucas still remembers Mr. Gray sometimes. "I wish I'd told you sooner," he said recently. "I wish I'd known it was wrong." "You were little," I told him. "You couldn't have known. But now you do. And you can help other kids understand." He nodded, thoughtful. Maybe that's why it happened, so we could help others. Maybe he's right. We can't change what happened, but we can use it to protect others. That's how we transform trauma into purpose, fear into strength, victims into survivors. Has your child mentioned an imaginary friend? Share your story and let's keep our kids safe together. Trust your instincts. They matter more than you know.